Memorial Day, and really every day, is a day to thank the Lord for those who have given up their lives to protect us. We are grateful for the sacrifice that so many have made. One wonders, when one is a soldier, if it is okay, given the stakes, given the fact that life can be taken at any moment, whether it is okay to be afraid. In fact, some might suggest that if you're not afraid, then there's a problem. And yet a Christian soldier knows that the Lord says something like, "Do not be afraid." So you can wonder, is it wrong to be afraid? As a soldier, as someone who is facing the possibility of disease, is it right in our own day to be careful about where you go or how close you get to someone? Or is that just flat wrong? It's wrong to be afraid. You should just act in whatever way you would act if there was no danger. Think about a little child. Let's imagine that a family has a swimming pool. The child is 4 years old. The child is tempted to climb up the ladder and jump into the above ground swimming pool, or go up to the edge of the underground swimming pool and just jump in. As a parent, do you want your child to be afraid of going in the water all by himself when you know as a parent that drowning will be the inevitable end? What fear is okay? What fear isn't okay? The Lord has clearly designed human beings to want to avoid death. That is, we treasure life. It is a gift. And finally, we don't want to die because there's an instinctive fear of what comes after. It's just a love of life also that's a part of that. And so there is absolutely nothing wrong with human beings going out of their way to try to not die. Now, does that mean that Christians who feel that way are afraid? Absolutely not. They are looking to protect the gift of life that God has given them. So where does the don't be afraid thing fit in? The don't be afraid thing fits in because a Christian isn't afraid if in the end, after he does everything he can to avoid an untimely death, he still dies. In other words, I have love for this life, but if it becomes inevitable that death must come, well, I'm naturally afraid of death because I'm naturally afraid to face the judge who will meet me after my death. But when I know that Jesus has given up his life for me, he was not afraid to die as someone who was my substitute, experiencing the judgment I deserved. Because of Jesus, I know that I will not be judged. My sins are forgiven. I am covered in the righteousness of Jesus. And so I am not afraid, by God's grace, to die. What a blessing to be a Christian soldier. To know that, you can feel the tremors of going into a moment where your life may be taken from you. But you can also go with perfect peace, knowing that if you do die, there is nothing to be afraid of after death. And in a similar way, as we're facing the potential for disease, that doesn't mean that we're not having precautions. It doesn't mean that we don't wear our body armor, that we don't put our helmet on, that we don't look carefully, that we don't stay in the foxhole until we know it's safe. It doesn't mean that we try to use good judgment, whatever ways we can. But at the same time, we know that if we've used good judgment and still death should catch us, I don't need to be afraid. We thank the Lord for our soldiers who have done all they can to preserve their own life, but they are willing to give that up in order to preserve ours. Dear Lord, help us know that as we face enemies of our own, we can do all we can to keep safe, but in the end, we know we don't need to be afraid should death overtake us.